All right, folks. Well, everyone better wake up because make no mistake about it. The reason Donald Trump Jr. just landed in Greenland is not about spreading MAGA values and just want to show off and have some good, cozy new relations. No, it's about preparing for a war over the Northern Sea route, a vital passage for global trade, military positioning. It's about securing a major strategic landmass before the coming war in Scandinavia. And by the way, friend of the show, Colonel Douglas McGregor, reported that the Trump team already has a Greenland plan in place in order to acquire Greenland, has already put this plan in place. They have it mapped out. So is he there to deliver this message? Well, here was Donald Trump Jr. just a short time ago landing. Here's Trump Force One landing in Greenland aboard Trump Force One. There it is. There's the airplane coming in the capital city. And then President Trump posted on Truth Social just a short time after that, for purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Okay. And just moments ago, President Trump held a press conference where he doubled down on his intention to essentially buy or take Greenland for national security purposes. He said he will place massive tariffs on Denmark if they don't immediately relinquish all control of Greenland. We need Greenland for national security purposes. Watch.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look at, you don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen. We're not letting it happen. And if Denmark wants to get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States. But if they did do that, then I would tariff Denmark at a very high level.
You asked your staff to draw plans for.
Yeah, tariff them at a very high level. Basically relinquish control. The 45,000 people living there. So Donald Trump Jr. went on a bit of a tour over the past 24 hours, and everyone's wearing a MAGA hat in Greenland. They're super excited about it. President Trump even called in during Don Jr.'s meeting with a group of individuals at a different cafe, and everyone there is wearing a MAGA hat. And he said, you guys need security. You're surrounded by Russian ships, Chinese ships, Russian nuclear war submarines. And they yelled, yes, we need you. So a new NATO military base, Greenland, a massive piece of land. You know, we have a globe in our living room. I was just looking at it today. I'm just like, you realize how massive Greenland is, a massive piece of property. And President Trump has likened it to a massive real estate deal. I guess like in the vein of like the Louisiana Purchase. Yeah. Purchasing, you know, the massive territory under Thomas Jefferson and expanding the size and scope of the United States. So on this show, here's Don Jr. Showing off a bit of Greenland as he landed. Watch this.
Guys, we're here in Nuuk, Greenland. This is the founder, 1721. That yellow house with the red top, that was his original spot. That's where he moved. This is where it all started out here. Just incredible scenery. Super cool stuff.
Just to be clear, I'm not cheering this. Someone in the chat here, Dopamine Field, says Redacted is cheering almost on occupying new land by force.
When? How did you get that?
What? Did I say that? I don't believe I said that, actually. I mean, and first of all, I didn't ever say anything about occupying by force. What jubilance have
we exhibited?
About imperialism. I don't exactly know how that came across, but all I'm doing is explaining what's about to happen here. And so this would be a massive expansion of NATO. Right, again, further now out into the Atlantic. Are we going to take Iceland next? Is that what we're going to do? Just keep grabbing them up?
I don't think anybody voted for this.
I mean, NATO's already expanded right to President Putin's doorstep with the expansion into Finland over the past year and a half. Was something Putin said will not stand. We are facing a war in Scandinavia. Make no mistake about it. On the show for over 2 years, we've talked about the coming war in the Arctic Circle. Billy Meyer laid all of this coming war out decades ago. This is not new information. We will fight a war in Scandinavia over the North shipping lanes through the Arctic Circle. I've spoken to military strategists who agree that this is coming. The Arctic is home to an estimated 13% of the world's undiscovered oil. 30% of natural gas reserves undiscovered in this region. Also, passage through the Arctic shaves 40% off the time it takes to deliver minerals and goods across the world. The U.S. is so far behind in the Arctic, it's not even funny. Russia and China are light years ahead there. Get this, we only have one ice-breaking ship. One. We have $1 trillion per year military budget, and we have just one icebreaker ship. Rex Tillerson, former Exxon CEO and Secretary of State under Trump, talked about this recently. Listen.
What I can tell you is the United States is behind. We're behind all the other Arctic nations. They have dealt with this. They've gotten way ahead of us. The Russians made it a strategic priority. Even the Chinese are building ice-breaking tankers. Now, why are they building icebreakers? They're not an Arctic nation because they see the value of these passages. So we're late to the game. I think we have one functioning icebreaker today. Their Coast Guard's very proud of it.
Yeah.
As crummy as it is.
Yeah.
And I know in the budget, there is money in the budget for us to build another icebreaker. But the whole Arctic region, because of what's happened with the opening of the Arctic passageways from an economic and trade standpoint, but certainly from a national security standpoint, is vitally important to our interest.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Economic interest
and national security interests. Because again, are we going to sit back and watch China and Russia already? They've been doing this for over a decade now. We are so far behind in this. Really started happening under Obama, sort of relinquished control there of the Arctic Sea route and these shipping lanes. And of course, outsourced all of this. I mean, whether it's rare earth minerals to Russia. We don't hardly enrich any uranium in the United States at all, thanks to the Clintons. Give away all of that. So yeah, if Greenland wants to vote and become part of the United States, then they can vote and become part of the United States.
We can thank environmentalists for that too, because every time the United States tries to enrich its own minerals or mine for anything that is a component of anything that we use, environmentalists sue to stop it. So yeah, we can't pin it all on the Clintons as much as we'd like to.
Yeah, well, so I don't think Putin's going to allow it to happen, but we'll see here. Putin says, quote, this is a strategic priority for Russia. This area, of course, in the Arctic region, constructing bases, deploying advanced weaponry. They've now deployed hypersonic missiles into the Arctic territories, nuclear-powered submarines all through this region. So China and Russia basically dominate this area right now. So that's what this whole Greenland play is all about. It'll be interesting to see what Putin does in response, and are they just going to allow this to happen? We'll keep our eye on it. It's going to be interesting to see what Denmark does, too. Are they going to allow these? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if you saw this over the past few days. Did you see what Denmark did? Because Denmark doesn't give a shit about Greenland, right? So what they did was they changed their coat of arms. If you look at Denmark's coat of arms, it has like a little tiny thing on it that used to show Greenland. And in the past few days, they've changed their coat of arms to make Greenland like a bigger part of their coat of arms. They're like, no, we do care about you. Suddenly, now that Trump's talking about this, it's pretty funny. Go ahead, Philip.
Well, I just imagine that everybody in the CIA is clenching their butt cheeks right now because they're like, that's not how we take over countries. We do it covertly, through media manipulation. They're like, you don't just come out and say it.
Right. And we're going to offer you money and sort of a strategic partnership. And you guys want to vote on this to become a part of the United States? Then, okay, we'll see if this goes.
The CIA is like, what happens if they say no?
Right.
We don't usually give them a choice.
There's a whole team at the CIA waiting. Like, hey, we have our friends at Al-Qaeda and ISIS that we've created. Did you guys need like a regime change operation? We'll send ISIS in there like we usually do.
It's like the old Hawaii team still around? Because they can just orchestrate a coup.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about Facebook. Facebook says it will no longer censor content in a 5-minute video by founder Mark Zuckerberg. He says that all Meta platforms are now free speech and that instead of censorship, they're going to move to community notes the same way X does it. Basically a copy and paste, like, hey, that's working over there. You guys are engaged. Here's the post. You can find it for yourself. If you can forgive this guy, go ahead. I am having a hard time with this because in this video, well, so many because I'm going to try and keep it short. In this video, he admits that there have been rules and censorship on Facebook, but he blames the Biden administration. Fully under the bus, Biden administration. Now, he says that now that Trump is taking office, he's all about free speech. Now, we can give him the teeniest bit of the pass because in the Twitter files, we saw that even though Facebook executives were asked to censor, they said, well, this is not really right, but the government won't back us and they'll come after us in terms of regulation if we don't do it. So we kind of have to. And that was the extent of their resistance. And then beyond that, it was full steam ahead, whatever the Biden administration wanted, whatever the Clinton campaign wanted, whatever the Obama era wanted, full censorship. It's been like this for over a decade. That's not how freedom works. Let's refer to founding father Thomas Jefferson on this. He said, famously, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Notice he did not say stand for freedom or free speech when it's allowed or when a pro-freedom leader is in office. No, we have to be eternally vigilant. That means you stick your neck out when freedoms are being taken. We needed him over the last 4 years, not after it was over. So while I absolutely just seethe over this, let's listen to what he says. First, he says that the conversation around censorship revolves around potential harms. Notice the word potential is big here. He's no longer trying to sell us this idea that leftists have been trying to sell us that words are violence. So that's good. Maybe that talking point is dead. Here's what he says he's going to do now.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
Okay. So we've been restricted to talk about gender and immigration. If you wanted to talk about the border crisis, that has not been allowed. If you wanted to talk about men and women's sports or misgender people or use pronouns that were not allowed, that there have been rules there. He says there won't be any more. It's starting in the United States, so be careful if you live abroad still. So remember those who said that people who claimed they were being censored were crazy? When are those apologies coming? I'd like to know. We've known this again we've known this for a long time, but we've known it especially since the Twitter files. So it's not a surprise, but it's annoying. So what does this mean now? And as for those content moderators, well, many are saying, so he's saying, no, because Facebook has had these independent fact checkers. Well, it turns out those independent people were paid heavily by Facebook, and that business now might just die. Here's what Glenn Greenwald said about it. He says there's a panic in the self-anointed disinformation and fact-checking groups that have been coerced big tech to pay them to dictate which political ideas must be removed. The post-2016 financing of this censorship industrial complex brought power and profit, but now Facebook won't pay anymore. So that's amazing. All these people who worked in disinformation. I once ran into a young girl, remember, in a bar who was like, oh, I'm moving to America to work work on disinformation. It's really important. Like, this is what young people are making their careers out of now. She had just finished university, English girl. So she's going to have to find something else to do, because this industry might just implode. You don't get to tell other people what's true and what's false anymore.
Yeah.
Say something.
No, I mean, I think, well, like the Babylon Bee headline today, I don't know if you guys saw it. It was pretty funny. Let me see. It said the Babylon Bee said the guy who said Facebook was not suppressing free speech announces Facebook will stop suppressing free speech.
Right.
Right. The irony here. So
yes.
We're not suppressing free speech at all.
Another point for conspiracy knowers.
Was he lied to by his own staff? I mean, that seems to be the thing. You know, was he lied to by his own fact checkers or own like higher up staff here? Is he like a lone wolf now?
Well, I mean, this all came to a head in post-2016 results of the election, where everyone who was a liberal said this only happened because hateful people were allowed to share politics on Facebook about how much they hated Hillary Clinton, as if that were a baseless thing to feel. And so they ramped up and shut down the ability to say things that were anti-democrat. That's really how we got here. What's funny, though, is that he says now, in order to gain back trust, he's going to move any content moderation teams that remain to Texas, because people just don't trust anyone from California anymore. Watch this.
We're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams.
Okay, so no one in California can do this anymore, because everyone else who doesn't live in California knows their speech is filtered through California, and California is full of leftist extremists. But I mean, it's an interesting question, though, because you can't move those existing people and move them to Texas. You have to just get rid of the people who are in and from California. If this is a legitimate, I mean, I kind of call bullshit on this as an excuse anyway, but you know, what's interesting about this, Elon Musk moved his teams to Texas. A lot of people are moving out of California because it's so expensive. Is that real, or is he going to take the same extremists and just move them to Texas? Who knows? Now, he says he tried to solve this by removing politics, this bias on the site, because people were just too stressed. But now he's like, look, you guys want to talk about politics. We're bringing this back. Watch this.
Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed, so we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, while working to keep the communities friendly and positive.
Okay. Positive, they
Positive.
said. Is it? Yeah.
So I saw another meme today where it showed AI of Zuckerberg just like leaning over and like trying to study the homework of Elon Musk, and he's just copying the notes, because you know that's exactly what X has now done. Like your Grok score for positivity, and like, oh, we're gonna now have community notes, and what else can I copy off of Elon Musk over here?
Yeah. And here is where he says that he's going to work with Trump now to push back on censorship around the world, because America is supposed to have been a leader, but he couldn't do that under the Biden administration. Watch how he just, again, drags the Biden administration through the mud, blaming them for what he has done.
Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years, when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it.
Okay, he's going to take it. He didn't when it was costly to him, but now that it's A-OK, he's going to do it. But what would he have done if Kamala Harris had won? Would he just keep going? I mean, that's not bravery now that it's safe.
Right.
I was interacting with some people online today, and I was like, you know what? I want every one of us that was punished for saying things that we should have been free to say to have some kind of badge to show that we spoke for freedom when it was not allowed. Not now that it's allowed. You don't get a badge now that it's allowed. You had to have done it when it was risky, or you didn't mean it. And I'm pissed about it. Also, let's not forget. So he's saying, now I'm going to work with the Trump administration. He censored the Biden story, the Hunter Biden laptop story, when Trump was president. So he had, sorry, Clayton said to stop banging on the table. He had the opportunity to work with Trump and he refused. So why this time? Should they get a second chance when he's betrayed us all? And doesn't even matter. Is it too late just because grandparents are on Facebook and nobody else? I wonder. Also, will it save them from the litigation for answering for what they've done? Here's what DC Drano said he was about to be investigated for giving $400 million plus to Democratic election operations in 2020. So he went to Trump and said, well, what changes do you want on Facebook? I'm sorry, that should still happen. He absolutely should be investigated for the money that he funneled into the Clinton administration, into Democrats, into all of this. Well, still want that.
And Elon Musk, even after Elon Musk took over, said, yeah, hey, all the lawsuits against Twitter, bring them on. You know, if they did you wrong,
they should answer for that.
They should answer for it, even though I'm the new CEO. Bring it on. And if you guys were censored,
can't kiss the ring and then be forgiven. No, that's not how it works. I want equal justice under the law. They censored speech. They worked in collusion with the U.S. government against American citizens. Absolutely not.
And do they still have this back door? Do you know that Facebook has a back door? We had Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai on the show, and Dr. Shiva opened my eyes to this a number of years ago, which was that backdoor portal that allowed the government basically to censor Americans going around. They had a one-on-one conversation, backdoor portal that allowed government officials to go right into Facebook and ban accounts, take content down, whether it's about COVID, whether it was about big pharma. It didn't really matter whether it was about the election, January 6th, and they could remove content using this back door that Dr. Shiva pointed out in his massive lawsuit, because he was massively censored. And so, I think absolutely we should know if that still exists, right?
But let's talk about the dominoes to fall, because now we have a free speech platform still with the restrictions on X. Now Facebook is saying they'll do this. We still have restrictions on YouTube as YouTube creators. Rumble is a free speech platform. Pinterest was also part of the Twitter files. They were ordered to remove content that was in any way unfavorable to the Democrats. So I'd like to hear from those two companies, YouTube and Pinterest. Tell me what you're going to do different now, because we know you colluded with the U.S. government for censorship. Is that now something that, we saw YouTube at least speak up for free speech in the New York Times article against more conservative creators. That's a start. What about the rules? What are the rules going forward? And for those of us who've been punished before, can we walk that back? When's our apology coming? I'm so curious.
Yeah, Michael Guy in our chat says lawsuits for suppressing the First Amendment. Yeah, for what? Go ahead, Philip.
It wouldn't be suppressing the First Amendment on Facebook because they're a private company. But I think it's interesting that this follows so closely to their absolutely disastrous AI influencer campaign they just tried to launch into Facebook, where they were going to flood Facebook with a bunch of AI generated influencers, and it backfired tremendously. So they immediately pulled the plug on that, and then they followed up with this. I just find that interesting, the timing on these two events.
Right.
Yeah, the failure of the metaverse, the collapse of the metaverse, and now the failure of this AI-generated BS content. So you're going back to your roots of free speech.
Free expression, right. The roots of Facebook was a dating app. So, okay, what roots are we talking about? And I believe we do see currently the courts working out how much the First Amendment applies to social networks, whether they're private or not. And we haven't got around to that yet. So, okay. Anyway, let me know how you feel about that. Are you feeling forgiving? Do you find this very sincere? It is a change, at least in the rules of engagement in the United States alone. Will this, in fact, affect what other countries do? Let me know. Let me know what you think.
Do you ever have a feeling you're being surveilled and hesitate to share things of interest via text message or email with your friends and loved ones? Well, recently, outspoken parents at a PTA meeting in Catholic Americans have been labeled as domestic terrorists by the FBI. These types of labels can be used to allow the U.S. government to surveil its own citizens and others who live abroad without any legal due process. Fortunately, the founders of Bunkr have created an app to uphold people's rights. Bunkr is not beholden to any third-party corporation, investor, or government. Bunkr deeply believes that privacy is a human right and that everyone on Earth deserves bank-level security. Bunkr provides you protection from state and corporate surveillance, as well as cyber criminals. It includes a completely secure and private messenger, a robust password manager, secure cloud storage, and files for your documents. Bunkr is built to uphold the rights of people and protect them from cyber crimes. Download Bunkr from the App Store or the Google Play Store today. Use the offer code REDACTED to receive your first year for free. Well, drum roll, please. The most underreported story of 2024 has been announced. According to CBS News, a CBS News reporter, Jan Crawford. Now, see if you guys can figure out exactly what Jan here, that's Jan there. Can you guys name the most underreported story of 2024? Guesses. Any guesses? What do you guys think? What do you think? Philip? Well, you probably already know because you read ahead.
The success of Godzilla -1? I don't know.
No. The most censored story, the most underreported, I shouldn't say censored, the most underreported on purpose story of 2024 by the legacy media was the decline of Joe Biden's mental state. CBS says we should have done better. Reports from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, other outlets reveal that some advisors close to President Biden had been concerned about Biden's health from the earliest days of his administration. Right out of the gate. They didn't tell anyone?
I'm shocked, I say, Clayton. I'm absolutely floored by this brand new information.
The White House frequently dismissed questions, of course, about his abilities, even called videos that appeared to show Biden confused or out of step. They called them cheap fakes. You remember that?
For a second, humor me, go through the things that the mainstream media is now admitting that it refused to admit during the 2024 campaign. Let's see, the border crisis, the Wall Street Journal yesterday posting that joblessness is a problem after the liberal media told us it was not, so that Kamala Harris could be elected, Biden's mental decline, and the censorship complex. All of those things were true that they told us were not. I'm sorry, I'm freaking out about it. Freaking out. But okay, go ahead.
No, think about one day after the election, or was it 2 days, AOC came out and published a video where she's like, we should stop having fake candidates who don't believe what they say.
Okay.
Referring to Kamala Harris. Like, well, where were you a few days before the election? Couldn't you have told us that Kamala Harris is phony? Yeah. No, because you wanted her to win. But then a few days after the election, you come out and you tell us she was a total phony? All of these people.
To be fair to the media, though, I don't think that the person who's in charge of the nuclear codes of the United States, their mental decline is barely news, right? I mean,
right? Yeah, it wasn't a big story. I mean, we literally hunted down. Was it Grover Cleveland? I forget off the top of my head. I always get these two stories mixed up. It was Taft or Cleveland.
The one who had the surgery on the boat.
He had the surgery on the over the 4th of July holiday. He had part of his jaw removed because he had like a huge cancerous tumor in his mouth. I'm pretty sure it was Grover Cleveland, and they lied to the press about it. And basically the president disappeared for a few days. No one knew where he was. He was on a boat getting a emergency surgery, and no one knew about it. And one reporter was like asking questions about it, and he got like demonized. They ruined his life, this one reporter. 20 years later, they finally apologized. They did. But so we should be asking questions of the most powerful man in the world. Where is he? What is his mental state? But we weren't allowed to. So here's how CBS says. It's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations, Jane Crawford says from CBS News. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years, and yet he insisted he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office another 4 years, Crawford continues, arguing that the added media pressure could have led to a primary for the Democrats. Yes. If the legacy media had all come together and say, this guy he's out of his mind. He's got dementia. You guys, you
and then you could have picked someone other than Kamala Harris and had a shot at people at a candidate who people felt engaged in and had agency for.
Right.
Imagine that.
It could have changed the scope of the entire election, she says. Yet still incredibly, we read in the Washington Post that his advisors are saying that he regrets that he dropped out of the race, that he thinks he could have beaten Trump, and I think that is either delusional or they're gaslighting him. Okay, so why wasn't this covered? Why wasn't this covered by the mainstream media? And only now the sort of post-mortem from the legacy media telling us that they should have pushed harder. It's the most underreported story. It's your fault. But hey, that ship has sailed. Here was Senator Chuck Schumer just this weekend pushed on this very question now suddenly by NBC News. Now today or this week they're now asking this question. Watch.
I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
No. Look, we didn't. And let's look at President Biden. He's had an amazing record. The legislation we passed, one of the most significant groups of legislation since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, putting in 235 judges, a record, and he's a patriot. He's a great guy. And when he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him. We should all salute him.
Do you feel, as we have this conversation today, that President Biden could serve another 4 years had he stayed in the race and potentially won?
Well, I'm not going to speculate. As I said, I think his record is a stellar one, and he'll go.
Right. Did you notice how he shook his head no when he answered that question? I'm not going to speculate on whether or not he could have run another 4 years. So you lied to us. You lied to us, and you colluded with the mainstream media. So the fact that Kristen Welker now at NBC News is asking Chuck Schumer this on January 4th, 2025, where were you at mainstream media asking this question back in the spring?
Well, McDonald's will ditch their DEI goals. Here is a statement from McDonald's basically saying, hey, we had some inclusion goals, racial diversity, all that stuff in 2024. We feel pretty good about it, but we're not going to set any new ones. Here is a list of all the things that they're saying. And I know you can't read this on your screen, so I'm going to summarize it for yourself, but I want you to have the ability to read it for yourself. That's why I give you this document. So they're saying they're retiring these goals or pausing them or phasing them out. Robbie Starbuck, someone you may follow on X, has been at the forefront of pushing these companies to ditch these racist quotas. Here he is breaking down the corporate speak of McDonald's in a more reasonable and understandable way. Watch.
Of your time, we're going to jump ahead past a lot of the corporate word salad and go straight into what they're changing. So let me go and translate this corporate speak for you. First bullet point, we are retiring setting aspirational representation goals. And then it's a bunch of blah, blah, blah corporate speak. Let me translate what that means. McDonald's, like many Fortune 500 companies, they had what they would call targets or goals. In reality, they work like racial quotas, but they say these are certainly not quotas. Don't call them that. This is just a goal for them to hire, say, 50% people of color, whatever it might be, into a certain position. And then wouldn't you know it, they hire just the amount that they put, but it's not a quota. Don't call it a quota. Second bullet point, and always one of my favorites, we are pausing external surveys to focus on the work we are doing internally. AKA, we are leaving the HRC's Corporate Equality Index social credit scoring system. Keep in mind, this was a company that had a perfect HRC CEI score, and that HRC CEI scoring system is how woke policies get forced into workplaces. So they are, again, the latest company to leave that scoring system, and that is good news. And now bullet point number 3, Bakery, one of my favorites, they're going to be retiring their supply chain's DEI pledge in favor of a system that relates to business performance. Imagine that, a merit-based system. This is what every company needs to be doing. The days of favoring one group of people over another based on diversity need to be gone. Bullet point number 4 here is one I'm not particularly a fan of, and I'm not happy with when companies do this. They are evolving how they refer to their diversity team, which will now be the global inclusion team. I think it's ridiculous. We don't need these teams, okay? It is a job. It is a workplace. You go there to work. People don't need a team assigned at corporate to making sure everybody feels included, okay? We're not kindergartners. We're adults. It's a workplace. It's a place people go to shop. Just provide great service, be kind, do the right thing, be fair. And if you're a company executive, lay down the hammer when somebody breaks the law. Everybody's all for that. But there's no need for DEI teams at all. No need for a diversity team.
Okay. So incidentally, McDonald's has had diversity all along. One of their largest beef distributors is a company owned by Mexican family. I did a profile on this back in the early 2000s for Hispanic magazine. So, and you see a lot of staff working at McDonald's stores are automatically diverse. This is not something that we really needed from them. So now we know that McDonald's will no longer pander to communist manifestos, making them one in a long line, actually, of companies. Here's Robbie Starbuck's a sort of hit list of companies that he has called out and that they have publicly said they're not going to do this anymore. So let's just look at them. Ford, John Deere, Lowe's, Walmart, Nissan, Coors, Toyota, DeWalt Tools, Tractor Supply. They were one of the first. Harvey Davidson, Boeing, Jack Daniels, Craftsman, Stanley Black & Decker, Caterpillar, Indian Motorcycle, and now McDonald's. So if you have a company that is laying down these racist policies, you know where to go. This guy, he's a dog with a bone, I will say. A dog with a bone.
I love it. Let us know your thoughts on that in the comments. A lot of people saying, McDonald's is doing a lot of things correctly. So this is just another move there. And I think a lot of these companies are recognizing that people just are voting with their dollars. Once they're finding out that these companies are doing it. Like we talked yesterday with Jacob Chansley, the QAnon shaman, who said, we need to vote with our dollars on a lot of these companies. And we are. People aren't going to the movies. They're not going to these Disney movies anymore. Right. They're turning away. And these companies are seeing it in their bottom line. My mom the other day was like, Natalie, do you want to go to Starbucks? And I was like, no, I don't want to pay for a young girl to get her boobs chopped off.
Right. She was like, okay, let's go somewhere else then.
Tommy in our chat says, is Redacted stopping our DEI policies? No, Natalie is a DEI hire. Because she's got global face, so she's part of our.
I check all the boxes.
She's part of our DEI program here.
Right.
She's the entirety of our DEI program.
She's our full DEI program.
I'm a woman. I have a Spanish blood. Yeah.
Trans man.
I'm hearing impaired.
She's hearing impaired.
All of those things.
All of it. Yeah. It's amazing.
All right.
She's a walking DEI.
Okay. Well, this is not a fashion show, but I thought I'd give you this bit of fashion advice because the San Francisco Chronicle would like to warn you that transphobic apparel is the new hotness. That's what this headline says. It's basically the new MAGA hat to piss off liberals. Well, what do they mean by transphobic apparel? They mean this. This guy's T-shirt is transphobic. What does it say, Clayton? Can you read that?
It says, save girls sports.
Look at all those transphobes. All of them.
Oh my God.
So
look at all these transphobes.
Transphobic. Yeah. To say that you want girls' sports to not have biological men in them.
He would have the balls to wear that shirt.
I think that it's... Oh, I get what you did
See
there.
what I did there?
Yeah, took me a second. It's not so much that they're wearing it, it's that they're wearing it in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's really bothering them. They go even further than that. They say that, so they give you this, take a look from this article, this nonsense about gender is on a spectrum, blah, 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 sex and gender. They're wrong. Gender performance is on a spectrum, but sex is not. But look at this line below that. Besides terrorizing these trans communities, one clear outcome this dust up seems to be having is a whole lot of T-shirt sales. So they're just so confused why these T-shirts are selling like hotcakes people feel this way.
So when we use the word terrorize.
Terror, like Guantanamo Bay level stuff.
I'm talking like New Orleans terror attack level stuff here.
That's how these people feel when they see a transphobic shirt like this, such as this.
Terrorizing.
So seeing a shirt you don't like is terror. They say, okay, terror, to the tune of Guantanamo Bay. So the push to wear this shirt obviously comes from a common sense opinion that many people share, according to most polls, that they do not want males to compete with girls in sports or to enter their locker rooms. This whole sex is a spectrum stuff is nonsense. Gender performance is a spectrum, sure, fine. You can perform your gender however you want, but sex is actually marked on every single one of your 70 trillion cells in your body. Besides the people, they mentioned Algerian boxer Imani Khalif. She has an intersex condition. She's not a trans woman, a trans person, full stop. Okay. What I want to say is that these trans advocates say that they should be able to wear whatever they want, whenever they want. Like this weekend, Jonathan Van Ness wore this dress to the Golden Globes. He does not identify as a woman. He says he's a gay man.
I just want to go on the record and say I'm terrorized by that.
Are you?
I'm terrorized by seeing that.
I don't ever terrifying.
Want to. That's terrifying. I'm terrified by that.
I don't care that he wears that. It's fine by me, but I think he should be subjected to the same fashion police as women are, when you can say, doesn't fit you well, if that's what we're doing. Like, that's not flattering, a sort of one-sided, off-shoulder. If a woman wore it in this way, then she would be subject to criticism, and I have a lot of problems with it. The hair is very sleek, fine. But I think that if trans people can wear whatever they want, then that should apply to these shirts as well. Then they should walk the walk, let anybody wear a shirt, even if it's transphobic and says save women's sports.